Julia talked about the experience with the New South Wales police and then there. And what's your experience? And there's a volume on disability and justice in the Royal Commission.
Yeah,
And
so I'm going to take it in a little bit of a different direction here and leverage off of comments that the minister from the ACT made earlier about pleasingly the very holistic approach that you're able to take as minister over various services that intersect in the lives of people with disability, and also Nishal's comments about advocacy and systemic advocacy, drawing on the fact that we know, all of us know, that there's great dysfunction in the interface between the NDIS and many state-run services, health, mental health, education, early learning, basically across the board. But I'm going to focus on disability and justice. And the reason I'm focusing on that is that at Uniting WA, about 20% of our services are 20% of our revenue is NDIS disability services. We also have a 40-year history in supporting people who are reintegrating into the community after lengthy prison sentences, a very specialized team that works in that space. And we have a disability advocate who is very committed to working in the disability justice space and has actually been extensively involved in running a pilot program here at one of the prisons for 12 months, looking at what was actually going on inside the prisons for people with disability. Volume 8 of the Disability Royal Commission report is focused on disability justice. When you read through that volume, you realize that the data collection around disability and justice is actually very ad hoc and sporadic and not very reliable necessarily. But what we know or we can glean, and this is some of this from the report, but some of it from our experience at Uniting and what we know. So almost half of people in prison live with disability. 30% have psychosocial disability. 80% have cognitive impairment. 90% of First Nations prisoners have a cognitive impairment. 30% of children at Banksia here in Western Australia have FASD. And in the prison advocacy pilot, 100% of the people that were supported through that pilot had cognitive impairment. So the common characteristics that we see for people caught up in the justice system who have a disability is that there's poor education, they're over-policed, which is why they're subjected to sentences and charges, and over-criminalized in general. And then there's a strong comorbidity of non-criminal and non-disability issues for these people, including homelessness, mental health, FDV, and substance misuse. So the consequences for this group of people are that they're overrepresented in prison settings. There's a high degree of recidivism for people with disability who move through in a constant sort of circle with the prison system. They're subjected to lengthy stays in prison, often beyond the term of their actual imprisonment, because there's no support mechanisms for them to come out of prison. And critically, in terms of the intersection with the NDIS, is there's a lack of access to NDIS support, both in prison and on release.